Hey, everybody, this is Mark here with New England Debate, and we are going to talk a little bit about extemp preparation and how to use Extemp Genie. At some point, I'll record a video of how I would use Extemp Genie to do my extemp speeches, but I was talking to Ella here the other day, and she has a completely different process than I would have ever thought of and has much more experience with Extemp Genie than I do. So I invited her to come on and explain to everybody how she uses this program. How's it going, Ella?
It's good. It's good. So yeah, as Mark said, I use Extemp Genie a little differently than some teams may usually do it. I think that comes from I had a STOA coach from Extemp, and then I also competed through AACS through my Christian school. So I think having that kind of different coaches from different leagues and competing in different leagues kind of helped NCFCA to shape Genie into more of a tool that I use just a little differently. So this is what you're going to see when you log into Genie. So there's the welcome and Autofile. Those are the two main things. So this kind of explains it here. So basically there are 69 default sources, but you can actually choose which ones to use, and you can manually import your own. So you'll see like the Asia Times, the Atlantic Council. So basically you can deselect these if you don't like them. So another thing to keep in mind, at least with NCFCA, is just the judge pool, what you're going to get. So you might not want super liberal sources versus super Republican ones. You also just always don't want very biased sources, but specifically when you're looking at who you're going to have judges, it's important to pick these. So you'll pick whichever ones you want, and then you'll press Autofile. And then you will press start up here to start the Autofile. So here you can choose today and yesterday, past week, past month. I like to do the past 6 months to get context in reading, but sometimes I'll do like the past 3 months. So I'll press allow, and it'll show up here the time and then how many articles you've imported. So this will just go by itself. You can just leave your computer open. I do this even the night before the tournament. I'll do the past day or two and just set it up overnight with my computer plugged in, and it'll just import. See, it's already gotten 2,600 articles.
Yeah.
So.
How long do you find it takes?
So it definitely depends on your Wi-Fi connection and the laptop, which is actually why I got this new laptop for debate, because a Chromebook. So I was using a regular school Chromebook, and it would take an hour or two to finish autofiling. It depends on how long you do it. So if you do the past 6 months, this can go on for a day or two. If you do the past day or two to select for the articles, it's only going to take like maybe an hour. But see, already in a minute, I've gotten almost 10,000 articles. So you can stop it whenever you want.
Yep. Cool. All right. So you've auto-filed this. And I know you mentioned before that you really go through and organize specific articles.
Yeah, totally. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this Genie because it's a renewed license. Because I'm just using it a trial for now. But this, oh no, you can't see it. Oh, perfect. Okay, can you see all these folders that I have? All right, so it's not super organized, but basically there's team policy 21 to 22. So that's another good thing to note, is that you can use Extemp Genie for team policy and debate and speech too. Sorry, I use it for speech. But here you'll see each year I have a folder for. So the difference between a folder and a collection in Extemp Genie is really important. So a folder holds all of your collections, or you can have a collection by itself. So the collection is where you save the articles or cards, but a folder is kind of just like a placeholder for it. So it's basically just holding it. So under Extemp, this little folder button, that's how you create a collection underneath it, and that just keeps it really organized.
It is a collection, a group of articles?
So a collection can either be a group of articles or cards. So for example, I can show you when you cut a card, you can select which collection it goes into and it'll save it. So we can choose an article on COVID, and let's say we just cut this little part as a card, and then you can, once you cut it, you put in a tagline. Once you cut it, you can choose, it'll pop up with where you want to save it.
Oh, interesting.
So you can choose debate.
Can you show me an example of what that like what a collection looks like? Pull up an old one or something?
Yeah, totally.
And I
Totally.
want to see.
Folders and collections. So let's go to my we can do my energy presentation one. So I was giving a presentation on energy 2 years ago for team policy. So I saved an article in this. I didn't save a card. I can find one where I saved a card. So under team policy, I might have, oh, and every time you press one of these, it goes into your sidebar right over here, which is super helpful. So let's see.
And I assume it's cutting off words there because you're just using the demo
Yes.
in those articles. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't sign into my license on this one today. I don't know which one I would have cards.
What about that carbon tax neg cards one? I assume there are cards in there.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Yep. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So these are cards, I believe, that I cut. So gotcha. Even though it's lined out, it shows you this highlight was a card that I had made. It's too bad you can't see it, but basically, yeah, when you go into an article, you'll select the part that you want and press cut, and then add in all the information, and you'll save it to it so that when you go to this debate cards 2019 to 2020, each one of these is an article and it has the cards inside of it. Or some of them will just be cards.
Okay. Interesting. So it makes like little tiny briefs for you and pre-cites them.
Right.
That's really neat.
Yeah, so every time you save an article, so Genie will not save an article without the correct citations for any kind of card, for debate, for speech, any citation. So when you go to extract your own articles too, this applies. So sometimes you'll have an article that the date is like embedded or in a picture, but it's not actually text. Genie won't be able to save it because it tries to filter out. It finds the citation for you so that when you cut a card, it just pre-cuts the citation and you can edit it if you want. But that's how that works.
That's really cool. So let's talk now about your process for like in an Extemp round. How do you use Extemp Genie once you've gotten an Extemp question?
Right. So the first thing I start off with NCFCA, it's usually domestic or international. So you can see here for Extemp 2018 to 19, I had domestic and international. I also sometimes split it up by category. So I had this one for technology. That would be anything, like one time I gave a Tesla speech. So I went into technology. This one has a Google collection, which is all on Google, but I would go into technology and let's say I would have a collection here on Tesla. And if the question was on Tesla, I'd go in there, I'd choose some of the articles that would have to do with my question. And if they weren't pre-cut cards, then I would go to the article and I would cut a card, but instead I would just write this down on my physical card. And then see the citation is already collected here. I would just quickly scribble that down on my card. And that's how I would use that. So generally what I try to do is I find the 3 sources. I try to use 3 sources in each speech. I just put them here on the sidebar. And before I actually write them down on my card, I pick the 3 and then I'll make the outline, and put them where I want them. So that
but you have a lot of that already pre-sorted into collections, right? Instead of just searching the entire database.
Exactly. So let's say I get a question that I don't have a pre-organized collection on, then I would go into search and you can just search that, and maybe you get one on the president. You can add president. You can select specific words here. So let's put in Biden, and then it's going to come up with Biden administration and COVID-19. You put all these into your sidebar, put the ones that you like. You can go to them and cut them manually. It will take up more time, which is why I suggest pre-cutting cards. But this is still super helpful. You just go into the search bar and search the keywords in the question, and then quickly read through the articles and save them in your sidebar here.
Yeah. So instead of just getting the big pile of articles that Extemp Genie gathers, you're going in every day or almost every day and like looking and finding your favorite articles then, right?
Yeah, so honestly, for that, personally, when I have, my morning coffee Extemp time, I don't always necessarily use Genie to find articles, but I'll find the articles and use Genie to save them for Extemp. All right, so here I am in Chrome and I will go to my favorite, which is Dredge Report. This is basically, so today's Dredge Report, this is just like a collection of daily articles that comes up. So it's kind of like your daily dose of news. And it's going to come up. So the most important articles or popular, some of them will be crazy. Some of them will be relevant. You can just choose one to click on, and it'll go to the article. So this is from Yahoo News. And then up here at the little genie icon, which is hard to see with my background, you'll press that. And what that does is extract the article. So here it'll explain to you that it's going to basically take the article and put it into the Genie database, because let's say, so Genie only has, I think, 69 sources that they pull from when you autofile. What this is doing is basically expanding the database to things that you personally want in there, which is also good because you're familiarizing yourself with the material. So now I can save it wherever I want. So I can save it to debate cards, but as you can see here, the collections are the ones with the boxes where you can save things. So you can't save things in folders. Let's say I want it in Extemp 2020 to 2021. So I'll press New Extemp Collection and I'll title it Trump. And I'll create the collection, save it to that, and then press Save.
That's
Another
really
thing
cool
to note about this, though, is that if this article didn't have the date or the author, so here it'll have a little triangle, which is really great. It warns you about concerns about the article. So it'll say no credentials, unknown source. That doesn't mean it's not there. It just means that Genie doesn't recognize it. If there's no date or no author, you physically won't be able to press save here. So that's another thing to note, is that it's kind of like making sure that you're putting in things with sources. So if you're concerned about an article, if Genie won't take it, it's most likely something you don't want to use.
Yeah. Or it's possible it's there and just whatever system Genie uses to pull that information isn't there. That's really cool because, you know, one of the big complaints or concerns people have had about shifting to digital Extemp and using Extemp Genie is that people don't actually read the news anymore because they just do it on the fly in the round. But I love this idea of having like a morning Extemp coffee and manually putting in articles you think are really cool and making little sub organizations. I think that's fantastic.
Exactly. And even if you don't extract articles, you can, for your morning Extemp coffee, you can go into Genie and just pick 10 of them from an autofile. What I would do is, so Genie has this cool feature of practice questions that you can press, which is, I don't know where it is on, oh, it's this little question mark. And this will give you questions, domestic or foreign, that you can do. So you can draw a question and then you can have practice rounds with yourself. You can choose here international or domestic.
Can you
so I can
click draw questions? I'm super curious how
yeah.
good their questions are.
Yeah, so you know, they're not as amazing as could be, but so like, yeah, will President Biden maintain his commitment to unchanged tax rates for people making less than 400,000 a year? So that's a pretty popular conversation. So if there aren't things though in an autofile that you don't like, you can manually file them. But yeah, you can just go into autofile, find 10 articles on this, read them through with your breakfast or something, and you can pre-cut the cards then, so that when you're in the round, you've at least have read 10 articles on this subject, so that if you get a question, even if it's not worded like this specific practice question, you're going to be familiar with it and be like, oh, I know who Biden is, or something like that.
Well, let's hope people know who Biden is
Yeah.
if they're doing Extemp or
hope.
just you know live in America.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I did not realize how much of a resource this could be. I just assumed it dredged articles out and then you got to search them. That's really cool.
Definitely very tailored to Extemp leagues and competition based, you can tell. And the best part about this part is you can submit your own questions. So it says type your brilliant question here. You can also use coaches. So if you have an Extemp coach who sends you a list of practice questions, if you put them into Genie, then when you draw the question, you can set a timer in Genie here. It has a 20-minute timer set. You can set the time to 30, 20. What I do is set my timer to 15 minutes for prep, so that when I go to a tournament, I have extra 5 minutes that I'm not used to practicing with. And that's the best factor about Genie, is that You can kind of trick yourself by setting the timer to 15 minutes, but you can set it to anything you want. You can restart the timer. So basically, you can have your own competition right here in Genie.
That's fantastic. Any other features you use that
I
we
use
haven't
the
gone over?
highlighting a lot. I don't know if I mentioned that. So when I go to an article, and let's say I'm cutting this as a card, I highlight. So I assign the colors in the round. It depends, because there's only 5 colors, right? And there's so many different things you want to say. So if it's, let's say it's supportive to the topic, I'm going to choose yellow, or let's say, this is, you could also do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So you can do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. There's just so many things you can do with the colors, and it kind of helps my brain recognize, oh, this is purple. Another thing is in Extemp, I have colored highlighters with me that match these on the cards. So that helps me. So it's basically, if I highlight on here, I'm going to highlight it on my 3x5 card. So let's say the card in Genie is yellow. I'm going to yellow highlight that point, and it's just going to help me remember so that I'm not reading off my card. I'll just see yellow and be like, oh yeah, this. I'll start to analyze it. Then I can look at my card to read. It just helps conversationalize things.
That's fantastic. Cool. This is super helpful. Thank you so much for explaining this all to me. Because
no
I've
problem.
only fiddled around a little bit. I've never competed. Back in the dinosaur days, we had giant boxes full of dead trees that we did extemp with, which
Yeah,
was
I've done
fun,
that.
but
It's hard paper
I've
compared
killed a
to
lot
this.
of trees.
Once you go Genie, you never go back.
Oh man, they should sponsor you. That's
Oh,
really cool. Yeah, thank you so much for showing me how you use this. I still think if I was competing, I would have a simpler system, but I'll make another video about that. This is definitely super helpful. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope you got a lot out of this, because Extemp Genie is a fantastic resource, and you should all be doing Extemp. It's not that hard.
it's not. No, it's
People
not.
think it's big and scary and hard, and it's not that hard. And well, first of all, everyone does impromptu, and impromptu is way harder than Extemp.
So much harder. Yeah,
It's
for
so
sure.
much harder. And impromptu is always the one that people do the most of, and Extemp's way better. And now you don't have to print out, thousands of pages. You can just let this program do it for you, and it's just a better event. So hopefully this encourages people to do Extemp. Go do Extemp. If you're watching this, you have no excuses now.